In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Hey there, man. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so you're a teen advice mentor and a YouTube influencer. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started making YouTube videos in 2011, and originally I just made videos kind of on topics that I liked. I talked about books. I talked about different things I was learning in the dating world. Different things I was kind of discovering for myself. And what I started to notice is that the more I talked about relationships and building relationships, talking to your crush, making friends, telling your parents about something that happened, I started to notice a lot of teens and kind of young adults, so middle school, high school, college level people asking different questions about kind of just basic things that they were dealing with in life. How do I make friends? How do I deal with failing a test? How do I deal with talking to someone I like? And I started to see there was a gap in YouTube. There was no one really kind of speaking to teenagers, allowing them to kind of share their feelings, talk about what's going on in their lives, address these kind of difficult questions, because most of the time you can't really talk to your friends about it. It's kind of awkward or weird, and your friends know just as much as you do. So no one's really, no one has the life experience to kind of share. So for me, because I was older, I wanted to kind of share my own experience, talk about the things I went through, talk about how, I was scared in certain times and I was nervous in others, and I had to build that confidence. So I started to see that gap was there and it was needed on YouTube, and I wanted to kind of fill it. So I started to kind of really, really focus and prioritize since 2000, probably 13 and on those type of videos, helping young people kind of work towards being their best selves.
Nice, nice, nice. So, during the process from 2013 to 2017, you went from a YouTube newbie to a YouTube influencer. So, did you face any backlashes from people like close friends, family, relatives, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, when I first kind of started, like my close friends, they just thought the videos were weird, and they're like, "Oh, why are you doing this? This is kind of silly." But for me, I think that like I was able to push that aside because I had I guess, a vision going into it, and I think that's something that I think a lot of creators struggle with. Because when you're first starting, the people that are watching your videos are your friends and your family, right? 'Cause you don't really have an audience yet. So, a lot of times when those people around you are kind of giving their feedback, they're doing it from a place of like, oh, are you going to be successful? Is this going to be popular? Is this, like they're thinking in that sense rather than, hey, is this something you align with? Is this something you enjoy? So for me, I kind of recognize, hey, you know what? My friends may not get it. My videos aren't for my friends. The content I'm talking about isn't for someone my age. It's for someone younger. So I kind of was able to, I guess, dismiss that negativity that I was experiencing, because I knew that on the other side, there were young people watching and leaving comments and interacting. So I knew I was putting something positive out into the world. And I just knew that that was a net good rather than anyone else kind of trying to get me to stop.
The way I see it is that the people that are closest to you give you the maximum negative vibes because they are the people who don't want to see you fail. That's the way I see it.
Exactly.
That's the way. So this brings us to the topic of expectations. So how do you maintain the borderline between unrealistic expectations and the reality of things?
You mean for yourself in creating?
Yeah, in creating or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that people overlook when it comes to setting expectations for things is having a deep sense of gratitude for the things that you do have, right? Whenever we're approaching something new, we're trying to accomplish something, like you said, dating, business, a YouTube channel, whatever it may be, we have this kind of big vision and goal in mind, and we measure our success to that goal. It's like, oh, am I going to have a girlfriend? Am I going to have $1 million business? Am I going to do XYZ? And if we're not getting close to that, right, however long that is in our minds, we feel like we're failing. And I think what we're not paying attention to is being grateful for the things we have. The fact that we can create, the fact that we do have people in our lives that care about us and support us. The fact that if this doesn't work, then maybe we can turn to something else. We have that option, sometimes. And we overlook that. We think that like our worth is determined by our success. And I think the way that you escape that is by being grateful for what you have, because you realize, hey, if I don't succeed, I'm still lovable for the person that I am.
And there's one more thing I read, that happiness is reality minus expectations. So I think the main problem arises because people start comparing their lives with the things that they see on social media like Instagram, YouTube, because people mainly post only their happy moments over there. but most of them don't realize that people are also going through the same struggles. And if some people don't realize is that their lives might be quite different from what they portray, right? So comparison could be the thief of joy.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, man. I think that social media is such a curated experience. It's made to look polished, made to look like our lives are glamorous. And the reality is, it's like we're so much more complex than the smile that you may see on someone's face. And it's important to realize that it's scary too to be vulnerable and to be honest. And I think especially with like a lot of these social media influencers who post these kind of like super cool shots and you just think their lives are perfect. It's like, I'd imagine that for them, there's even a bigger fear of being vulnerable because they have such an image to uphold that if they were to show that they were sad one day or that they didn't want to create or that they didn't want to participate in this lifestyle, it's like they would feel like, oh, I'm letting people down, I look weak. So there's a pressure that sits on their shoulders. And I think the way that we avoid that pressure is by, from the get-go, always working towards being vulnerable and being honest in our approach to everything.
The day I was reading an article about we shouldn't develop feelings for your crush until we start dating them. So how do you stop yourself from doing that? Or do you agree with it?
I think that it's like there are natural attractive feelings you may have, right? If you see someone, it's like, okay, they're attractive. You're drawn to them in some way. What I think that article may be kind of really touching on is this idea of the romanticized feelings that we build up in our head, right? So, seeing someone and being attracted to them, you can't control it. Attraction's not a choice, but how you choose to perceive them thereafter is, right? So a lot of times we start to think, oh, wow, this person is perfect. They're so amazing. They're just so cool. And all of that is created. So in order to prevent yourself from falling into that trap where you're building this person up before you've even gotten to know them, well, the solution, I think, is to get to know them. Because the more you get to know about a person, the more you can learn about their interests, their hobbies, what they care about, who are the people in their lives that help shape them to be who they are. You can learn all that information. You get a much better perspective. The lens becomes a lot clearer on that person. You start to see them as the real human that they are, rather than this kind of painted picture in your mind that you have of them. And we do this a lot with our crushes, right? Especially when you're younger, because it's like, all you really know of that person is you see them sometimes in school or, you see their posts online and you paint the rest of the picture yourself. You just think, wow, they're just a perfect and awesome person. But like we were saying before, it's like humans are complex. There's way more to it there. And it's like the more you can really learn about that crush, the more you'll start to see, oh, wow, that person does get nervous sometimes. And yes, they may be super attractive, but maybe they do feel awkward at times like I do. And that's where we connect. And that's where it's normal. We're both human.
And one more thing, that sometimes people don't get to talk to their crush because they kind of just are too afraid to ask about them. So is there any way that a person can restrict himself or his emotions from developing for the crush that they can't interact with? Maybe that person might be somewhere long distance, might be 1,000 miles away from them. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that, sometimes you can develop an attraction for someone that you may have no realistic chance of getting closer to, right? Someone online, someone that you see on Instagram, whatever it may be. I think that it all really depends on how well you feel you're able to manage those feelings, right? So for some people, they literally can become obsessed with, let's say, like an Instagram model or something, where they're just constantly checking their feed, constantly looking at their pictures, constantly thinking about them. And I think that there's a bit of self-assessment we have to do. If you feel like you're getting to that level where you're feeling depressed because you can't be with that person or because they don't respond to your messages or whatever, then it might make sense to kind of cut that cold, block them, stop looking at their content. You need to kind of take that hard approach to it. But I think in some senses, if it's a matter of like, hey, there's someone I know online that maybe I talk to every so often, they're a regular person, like we're an actual conversations with each other, but it's just not realistic, right? They just live in the other side of the world and I live here and we just realistically can't get together. I think then the best thing is to kind of it's like you have to shift the focus from what you may want, which is I want this romantic relationship, to what you can have with them, which is I could probably have an awesome friendship with them. Now, those feelings of interest might still be there. And I think the way you manage that is try to pursue other people, try to find people that are realistic that you can date. And I think that if you come across someone that you can date, let's say in person, but you're still friends with this person, I think those strong feelings for that distance person will start to fade or start to go to the background because your mind and your attention is going to be focused on the present person.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of the solution there, but you have to kind of shift towards that. Maybe I can have an awesome friendship with this person, and that's what I should aim to pursue.
So it's the time of coronavirus right now, and most of the people are single are having it a hard time to go about dating and relationships. Like if you were in a relationship before coronavirus, your bond could get stronger. But if you are starting new, if you are starting to pursue someone new, so you can't have that physical intimacy with that person. Like you can't ask them to go out on dates, and even if you ask them to FaceTime or something like that, that physical intimacy factor keeps on missing out. So is it a thing that you shouldn't expect too much from people that you are trying for in this corona time situation, or should you actually go out and pursue them seriously?
Yeah, I mean it's tough because there's a lot of factors that come into trying to date someone during this kind of coronavirus pandemic. It's like it's beyond just, oh, when is the right time to ask them to hang out? Now it's like, is it safe to go to certain areas? Is it safe to be in crowds? Are they going to be comfortable hanging out with a stranger, let's say, or someone, so there's a lot of other factors that come into it. I think it is possible to still date during these times. I think you may have to kind of shift the expectations where instead of every week, maybe you hang out in person, maybe twice a week, you do a video chat with that person or you call them on the phone. We have to use the tools that are available to us as part of the process here, And that means it's like we have to kind of shift our perspective from like, okay, hanging out and is the like in person is the only way that I can get to know them. And it's not true. Like I said, video chats like this are a great way to get to know someone. They're easy. You could do it from home. You don't have to worry about finding a place to eat or getting all dressed up sometimes. So it's a lot more casual, and it's a great way to kind of, I guess, put the time in to kind of get to know someone. And that's essentially what dates are, right? Dates are set up so that you can spend time with this person to see if the two of you connect, to see if the two of you blend well and you interact. And you interact in a positive way. So I think shifting more towards video chatting, shifting more towards phone calls, sending each other text messages, that's going to have to kind of be more your primary method. And then your secondary method is going to have to be hanging out in person. But to your point about like, I think there's a craving for physical connection, right? Like we're all craving that now because it's not there. And I think that if you are going to meet with people in person, if you are going to kind of have that kind of physical interaction where you're going to hug them or kiss them or whatever, and you're dating, you just have to kind of be safe and be smart about it. That's probably the best thing that I could say. I'm not a medical profession. I can't say like, oh, check if they're this or check if that, but you just kind of use it to your own discretion, just be smart about it. Try not to be around crowds of people if you're dating, things like that.
In today's world, dating has become kind of like a social norm that either you are dating someone or you're not dating someone. If you're dating someone, you're considered to be that you're doing something in life. Whereas if you're not dating someone, it's like, why aren't you finding anyone? And that social pressure, when comes on a person, it becomes really hard for that person to pursue the thing that he actually wants. He will go out there, he will try to find someone, and the question and the challenge here is this, that should you go out there and find a connection with someone you want to date, or let the connection come first? You keep working on the things that you're working, and in that process, if the connection goes to another level, then you can think about dating them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what we should always prioritize in our lives is our health and well-being. Right. So I think for a lot of people, they do become obsessed with the idea of like, I'm single, I want to be with someone. And that's the only thing on their mind. So maybe they're not prioritizing, what am I going to do that I'm passionate about? Am I taking care of myself? Am I getting the right amount of sleep or eating healthy or exercising? They start to let go of those things because they're just down and depressed because they want to have someone there. So I think that if if you're at a point where you feel like you are dependent on the idea of someone, you need a person in order to function, then I think you need to kind of reel back, because it's like the only way that you're going to develop a healthy, stable, and strong relationship with someone is if you bring a healthy, stable, and strong self to the table, right? If you're, let's say, broken in some kind of way, or you're down and you're depressed, like you need to work on those issues before you can kind of approach a relationship. Otherwise, you're going to go into it, with half a glass, like, and the glass is going to be half empty when you bring it to the table, and you're going to hope that the other person fills it for you. And that's not a good perspective, because the whole purpose of having a partner is that you guys complement each other. You help each other grow, not, hey, this person's going to help me solve my issues. That's what maybe a therapist or a counselor is for. And I think that what I would really say is that if you are someone who wants to be in a relationship, but it's just not working out, right? You're single, and you're in school trying to pursue a degree, or you're at work, and like you have that kind of as the focus. I think dating could be something as a part of your life, but I think that a lot of people make it a very serious thing. I think that if we approach it a little bit more casually, where it's like, hey, if I see someone I like, I'm just going to message them. I'm going to make a joke and stuff. I think that the less pressure we put on ourselves, the easier it then becomes to actually approach people. But it's when we get so focused on like, I need to have a girlfriend, that's when you kind of make the talking to a girl very high stakes. It becomes very win or lose. So you have to kind of move back from the win or lose type of mentality of like, oh, I talked to her, she shut me down, I'm a failure, I suck. Like, you have to get out of that and just make it more casual. Like, okay, she didn't like me. All right, I'll find another girl. I'll talk to someone else. I'm not going to allow my fear to dictate whether or not I succeed or fail, or whether or not I approach someone or not.
That was really insightful. Thanks for this, man. That concludes our session with him. If you are interested in having a one-on-one session with him, please do check out his Patreon links in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will be in the description box down below. Or if you are watching this on the website, Blogbee, it will also be somewhere down below. Then you can follow him on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you can also check out his book, Embracing the Awkward. Trust me guys, he's the real deal. He gives the best advice when it comes to dealing with your emotional and social life. Thank you guys, have a nice day.